the sound of hooves still echoes. Not like it used to, but it still echoes. For thousands of years, they crossed endless plains, carving paths where nothing existed but wind and dust. There were no fences, no owners, only movement, only survival. They didn't ask permission. They didn't obey borders. Freedom wasn't a concept, it was a condition. But time passed, and silently, the world grew smaller. Lands were divided, trails vanished. The space that once belonged to the galope was swallowed by silence. Today, only a few remain. A few bodies still running. A few shadows on the horizon. This is not a documentary about the past. It's about what still endures. About the last horses that refuse to stop. Before cities existed, before empires raised walls, hooves were already marking the earth. The horse wasn't born beside man. It was running long before any metal tool or flag ever trembled in the wind. It emerged across the vast landscapes of Eurasia, shaped by brutal winters, constant predators, and horizons that seemed endless. It was a creature built for distance, for movement, for endurance. And it was precisely that restless nature that changed humanity's fate forever. At some point, thousands of years ago, on open steppes where the sky meets the ground, man stopped being only an observer and drew closer. It wasn't a romantic encounter. It was a silent pact between need and opportunity. Humans saw strength, speed and mobility. The horse saw food, protection and survival. From that moment on, nothing would be the same. Peoples who once walked began to cross continents. Nomadic tribes became nearly unstoppable forces. War changed scale. Trade gained reach. Messages crossed territories in days, not months. The horse stopped being just an animal of the plains and became an extension of the human body. Empires were built on their backs. Armies advanced to the steady rhythm of thousands of synchronized hooves. From the Mongol Empire to legions that cut through deserts and forests, history was written with horseshoes stamping the ground. But every closeness demands a price. Over the centuries, the horse was selected, shaped, bred, adapted. It became stronger, gentler, faster, or tougher, depending on the needs of those who controlled it. Domestication wasn't simply coexistence, it was a process of profound transformation. Bloodlines rose, others vanished. Genetics were guided by human goals. And while domesticated horses multiplied across the world, those that remained free began to disappear. The great wild plains were occupied, divided, cultivated. Where there was some uninterrupted freedom, fences appeared. Where natural migration routes existed, villages took root, and then cities. The horse, once a symbol of absolute independence, began to carry harnesses, wagons, weapons, and expectations. And ironically, the success of this partnership almost sealed the fate of true wild horses. Because the more humans depended on the domesticated horse, the less space remained for those that never accepted reins. Some were captured, others hunted. Many simply lost their territory until there was nowhere left to run. Humanity moved forward, expanded, dominated. And the horse's original freedom became a distant memory, diluted among wars, farmland, and dirt roads. In the end, the same creature that propelled entire civilizations ended up pushing its own wild lineage to the edge of oblivion. And so, as human history prospered, the story of the truly free horse began to fade. For centuries, it was believed the wild horse had vanished completely, that all those still running free across the world were only echoes of an ancient domestication, shadows of a past already lost. But in a remote region of Central Asia, where the wind still blows without asking permission, and the horizon remains open, the story was not over. There, on the steppes of Mongolia, survived the last horse that never bowed to man. The Przewalski's horse is not a domestic variation that escaped. It was never ridden, never pulled wagons, never answered human commands. Its lineage followed a parallel path, isolated, preserving traits that domesticated horses lost over millennia. Its body is more robust, its mane is short and upright, its behavior more wary and unpredictable. Genetically, it carries clear differences, marking a definitive separation between what is truly wild and what was shaped by human contact. Even so, not even that resilience was enough to escape the pressure of the modern world. In the 20th century, the Przewalski's horse was declared extinct in the wild. Only a handful remained in zoos and private collections, survivors by chance of a story that nearly vanished forever. Freedom had been reduced to enclosures, the wild preserved only under surveillance. Decades later, international breeding programs tried to reverse the inevitable. Some of these horses were reintroduced to the steppes, returned to the wind and dust of their ancestors. They ran free again, but under constant observation. Their existence today is real, yet fragile, wild in essence, dependent in practice. And this is where a common confusion begins. Because while the Przewalski's horse fought not to disappear completely, other populations of horses were running free in different parts of the planet. From the American West to the plains of Australia, from isolated Atlantic islands to the landscapes of Patagonia, entire herds galloped without fences, without apparent owners, living in complex social groups, facing hunger, cold, drought, and predators. At first glance, they seemed like proof that the wild horse still ruled the world. But those horses were not wild in the original sense. They were feral. Feral horses are direct descendants of domesticated animals that at some point in history escaped human control or were abandoned. They carry centuries of artificial selection in their blood. They were bred to serve, to work, to obey. When they returned to life in the open, they had to relearn how to survive without protection, without shelter, without intervention. They adapted quickly. They formed bands, established hierarchies, developed routes, strategies, and instincts that seemed long forgotten. Freedom returned, but not the origin. These horses live like wild animals, but they were not born wild. They do not represent a natural continuation of the original lineage, but a forced return to autonomy. They are survivors of a broken history. Animals that escape domestication, but never their genetic inheritance. Even so, their lives are far from easy or romantic. In many places, they are seen as invaders, competitors for resources, problems to be controlled. They are captured, relocated, culled. The world that once created them now rejects them when they refuse to obey. And so the planet holds two distinct destinies for the last free horses. On one side, the truly wild horse, rare, monitored, protected so it doesn't disappear. On the other, feral horses, numerous, resilient, yet constantly threatened by conflict with the very species that created them. Both run, both survive, both resist, but along very different paths. The question that remains is not only how many horses still live free, it's what kind of freedom is still allowed to them in a world no longer built for the gallop. But when human intervention falls away, when fences stop existing and surveillance disappears, the feral horse stops being heritage and becomes instinct. From that point on, the domestic past doesn't matter. What defines its existence is the ability to survive like any other free animal. A feral horse's life is shaped by territory. Each band occupies specific areas, not chosen by chance. Water, grazing, and escape routes determine where to stay and where not to dare remain. These spaces are defended constantly, not always through direct confrontation, but through clear signals of dominance. Dominant males patrol the edges, watch from a distance, test the presence of rivals. When an intruder persists, conflict becomes inevitable. Ears pinned back, necks tensed, quick charges. Bites and kicks are not the exception. They are language. The fight rarely ends in death, but it always leaves marks. Scars that tell silent stories of territory, won or lost. Within the group, the hierarchy is clear. A dominant stallion leads, but he does not rule alone. Experienced mares play a crucial role in the band's movement, in choosing routes and in detecting danger. Young males, as they reach maturity, become a natural threat to the group's stability. When they grow too bold, they are driven out or drift away on their own, forming bachelor bands. These groups roam along the margins of territory, watching, waiting for a chance to challenge an established leader or steal a female in a moment of distraction. The breeding season intensifies conflict. The dominant stallion must constantly guard his mares, driving off rivals and responding to any attempt to approach. The struggle is not only physical, it is strategic. A single miscalculation can mean losing his position, his band, and his chance to reproduce. For feral horses, reproduction is not a guaranteed event. It is a daily conquest. When a foal is born, the band slows down. Birth happens without isolation, without shelter, often in the open. The mare delivers in silence, on constant alert. The foal must stand quickly. The longer it stays on the ground, the greater the risk. Within hours, it is already following the group, even with trembling legs and unsteady steps. There is no outside protection, no second chance. Survival begins with the first breath. A feral horse's childhood is short. Play exists, but it serves a clear purpose. Running, biting, shoving, testing limits. Every interaction is training in disguise. Little by little, the young learn to rid danger, to respond to the band's movement, to respect hierarchy. Those who fail to adapt fall behind. Nature does not negotiate. In this world without harnesses or commands, feral horses become once again what domestication tried to soften. Alert, social, competitive animals, deeply connected to the land they occupy. They do not live as imperfect versions of a wild past. They live as the closest present that still exists to the original freedom. In the the end between what was truly wild and what learned to be free again, a thin line remains. A fragile border between origin and survival. As long as hooves still mark the earth without reins, as long as bands still run without an imposed destination, the story will not be fully closed. The last wild horses are not only a species or a title, they are the final echo of a world that insists on staying in motion.